classified. Lot of work, lot of work. Many irons in fire.
You feel fulfilled?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so full. So filled. But why do you ask this? What brings you here?
What the fuck is going on here?
When you feel
I think you know. No, I don't. Yes, you do.
what the hell?
I don't know.
We're brought up with this belief that there are good guys and there are bad guys.
You got it. No.
That there are bad guys and there are worse guys.
Say it. That's right.
Hey, what's up? I'm Troy, and this is the Comics Code Atrocity. And today I want to talk to you about the Thunderbolts. Now, with the new movie coming out, a lot of people are wanting to know who are the Thunderbolts, what is this team, and how come Baron Zemo isn't in that leaked trailer. Well, what I want to talk to you about specifically is Norman Osborn's Thunderbolts and the Brian Michael Bendis run Dark Avengers that follows that Thunderbolts run.
What do you gotta do to get comics around this place?
But before we get into all of that, I have to take you along a little trip, and I apologize. See, back in the late 90s, there was that X-Men Avengers crossover event called Onslaught. And the result of that killed a lot of superheroes. It killed the Fantastic Four, for example. And Baron Zemo, having his team of superhero villains called the Masters of Evil, wanted to take advantage of the void that was left by dead hero teams. He rebranded his team the Thunderbolts, and they basically pretended to be heroes in order to get all the accolades and the free stuff and the free houses and basically be villains. But instead of robbing the bank, they just sort of get given the money from the bank. And I'm telling you this because at the Thunderbolts core, every single version of the Thunderbolts is always about villains trying to take advantage of the system.
How do we know the good guys from the bad guys? If they're shooting at you, they're bad.
So essentially for 10 years, there have been a bunch of different incarnations of the Thunderbolts. Their teams and team leaders and members have all interchanged. 10 years later, a crossover event called Civil War happens that in it requires heroes to be registered in order to wear a mask, the Superhero Registration Act. And there are a number of heroes, as you know, that refuse to be registered. For some reason, the heroes decide to enlist Baron Zemo and his team of villains, the Thunderbolts, and give them a very loose leash to get revenge on the heroes that they've hated for so long as the heroes were against the Superhero Registration Act. For some reason, they decided to write off Baron Zemo and have him have this whole born again moment. And because of that, they couldn't have him be the leader of a bunch of villains. So they replaced him with Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin. Unfortunately, that run is written by Warren Ellis, and he's notorious for having a terrible schedule. Tons of issues were delayed. They had to rely on a bunch of guest one-shots. It really fell apart, and no one got to see how that team could have formed until Brian Michael Bendis. And this is what I really wanted to get to.
Your attention, please. An episode. Hey, your attention, please.
See, Brian Michael Bendis, who is probably the greatest Avengers writer of all time, wrote Secret Invasion. As you know, the Skrulls take over. They pretend to be a number of heroes. And the Queen of the Skrulls is publicly killed by none other than Norman Osborn. And so the faith in superheroes is gone. The faith in Norman Osborn is at the absolute top it could ever be.
Bingo. Me.
Which leads into Brian Michael Bendis' Dark Avengers run. The Avengers have been disbanded. No one trusts S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore. They give Norman Osborn the keys to the kingdom. He actually renames the acronym S.H.I.E.L.D. Hammer, Hammer. I don't know what the acronym's for, and I don't think that he cares. He doesn't just replace S.H.I.E.L.D., he replaces the X-Men, he replaces the Avengers, he puts himself up on top of the Avengers, he starts replacing political enemies, he starts replacing leaders of other countries. He essentially is using his position of power to replace anyone who might oppose him. His Avengers team is replacing the heroes in the public eye. In some instances, they're actually just flat out lying about who they are.
Wait, who are you? We're the Avengers, man.
He enlists Bullseye to pretend to be Hawkeye. He enlists the Scorpion to pretend to be Spider-Man. He enlists Dayton to pretend to be Wolverine. In other instances, he just sort of gets it close enough. But one of the people that he enlists, and this really is the reason why I want to talk about the Dark Avengers, is Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, aka the Void. I'm not going to get into the history of the Sentry. Every version of the Sentry has been pretty different and dramatically insane. So you have to trust that this version of the Sentry kind of lives in a pocket and is different than any of the other versions of the Sentry. So I'm just going to talk about Brian Michael Bendis' Dark Avengers run involving the Sentry.
I request elaboration.
Norman Osborn brings him on, I think, to replace the strength that is from the Hulk. But the Sentry isn't just strong. He's not just a Marvel version of Superman. He is beyond those things. He is more powerful than Galactus. And I don't think that Norman Osborn realized that when he brought him on.
Here's the real truth. There are 8 million people in this city. And those teeming masses exist for the sole purpose of lifting the few exceptional people onto their shoulders. You, me, we're exceptional.
A lot of things happen throughout the New Avengers story, but the main part is Norman Osborn's relationship with Robert Reynolds. At first, he's using drugs, and there's some level of manipulation where Norman Osborn essentially believes that the Void is just an alternate personality, and that because he has dealt with an alternate personality, aka the Green Goblin, he knows how to manipulate that schizophrenia, that fear, that voice in the back of his head. And then when the drugs aren't working anymore, he resorts to kidnapping Lindy Lee, Robert's wife, and threatening her.
Yelena, this is the last time that we... Damn it.
And this sort of is at the end of the Dark Avengers run, and it goes into Siege, which really is like the end to that Dark Avengers run. Norman Osborn eventually realizes he needs to make a power play and he needs to stop Asgard, as an island full of Asgardians can potentially stop him no matter what he's doing. And he really plays his hand too much to try to get the Void to destroy Asgard. He doesn't want to do it. Norman Osborn kills Lindy. And the Sentry goes full on Void. And for the first time in the run, Norman Osborn realizes that he hasn't been manipulating the Void. The Void, which now is in total control, is an ancient, evil, malevolent force that can bend to no one else's will. I mean, I'm talking like full-on Lovecraftian horror, which results in essentially the Asgardians and the Avengers teaming up, needing to take down the Void and also sort of stop Norman Osborn and all of that stuff as well. And that does get wrapped up. Norman Osborn does go away. He goes to jail. A lot of the other villains either get away or go underground. The Avengers do rise up and retake their claim as the heroes of the day. But the end for Robert is a lot sadder. See, his wife is dead. He has killed so many innocent people. He doesn't know who he is anymore, and he asks Thor to kill him. Thor grants that wish and flies him into the sun and cremates him. Now, why am I telling you all of this? I don't think that anything that I said has anything to do with Yelena the White Widow, or the Red Guardian, or Taskmaster, Winter Soldier, or Ghost. Well, the reason I bring this all up is because that Thunderbolts asterisk at the end of the title, I just can't get over it. I can't stop thinking there's a reason for it. Now, many people seem to be speculating that means that there will be some sort of name change, like Thunderbolts and the Red Hulk or something like that. So that's not the final title, and so they're leaving an asterisk. I don't buy into that. I think that their choices are very purposeful. I know that they changed Agatha's TV show name like 17 times. There was never an asterisk there. So I think instead that this is a hint to what the plot of the movie will actually be about. And it has nothing to do with White Widow or Winter Soldier or any of the characters shown in the trailer. I do think they will be the protagonists, but I think that they are going to have to fight the real Thunderbolts.
Things are about to get weird.
Now, I'm not implying that Norman Osborn suddenly William Dafoe will walk out in a Iron Patriot suit and there will be all these other characters, but I will say we have seen in the trailer, and we all know that Bob, aka Robert Reynolds, aka the Sentry, is in the movie. There's no way they're not going to do some version of the Void in this movie. I do think that he is going to play a major plot point. I think they're going to be following that Brian Michael Bendis run. I don't know if it'll be Elaine from Seinfeld's character being the one manipulating or pulling the strings, but I do think there's going to be a lot more to him being on the team instead of just another character that happens to fill in the role of Punchy Man. On top of that, the Captain America 4 movie is going to play pretty heavily into the Thunderbolts. Specifically, there's one line from that Captain America trailer where Harrison Ford, now replacing the role of Thaddeus Ross, aka Thunderbolt Ross, says that he wants to take another crack at making Captain America a government agent.
But I want to make another run at making Captain America an official military position.
Why would he stop at Captain America? Why doesn't he want to make Iron Man a government agent? Why doesn't he want to make Thor and Falcon? Why wouldn't he want Vision to be a government agent? I think that whatever's going to happen in Captain America will set up for an additional team of characters that we haven't seen yet in that late Thunderbolts trailer. I think that our team is going to be fighting against a Dark Avengers team. I think that Red Hulk will probably replace the Hulk. You have had a number of characters that have been left behind that are essentially evil versions of the characters that are in the Avengers. Why not utilize that for the first time instead of it just being a trope that everyone leans too heavily on? And on top of that, I do want to say that this does sort of fit a little bit with the universe that took place in the comics to set up Hammer. S.H.I.E.L.D. is not to be trusted anymore. They've done the Secret Invasion thing. There hasn't been an Avengers for a long time. I think that it makes sense that there hasn't been an Avengers movie for 2 phases, because this is our Avengers movie. It's just not the movie we thought we were going to get.
You want to talk about stress? You want to talk about stress? Okay? I've stumbled onto a major company conspiracy, Mac. How about that for stress?
I think that the Thunderbolts title is a huge red herring. I think that probably Red Hulk and a number of other pseudo characters are going to pretend to be the Avengers. I think our team is not the Thunderbolts, and they're going to have to take them down. And I think that the Sentry is absolutely 100% going to become the Void, and that actually will be the plot of the movie. I hope that all of that explanation works for you. I highly recommend you actually read the Dark Avengers run by Brian Michael Bendis, and I hope that we actually get a real trailer by the time this video releases. All right, catch you next time.